meeting in order. Everyone stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No clue.
Okay, Jake, would you call the roll, please?
Butler,
Here.
Jordan, Lipscomb,
Here.
Oprich,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Thrash,
Here.
Vincenzo.
Here.
6 members present, 1 absent.
Okay, Linda called me. She was going to be unable to attend this evening, and our finance director will not be here this evening. She's on vacation. Okay, first of all, under the minutes, did everyone receive their copy of the January 17th meeting minutes? Does anyone have any questions on those? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes as official. And a second? Butler. Take a roll call vote.
Butler,
Yes.
Lipscomb,
Yes.
Oprich,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Thrash,
Yes.
Vincenzo. All members are in favor.
Okay, the January 17 minutes are approved. Under new business, this actually should have been done at the last meeting. It was my slip up. We had so many things going on. I actually forgot about it. But we have to reappoint a president pro tem to take the chair seat if I'm absent. I did talk to Beth, and she said if everyone else is willing and nobody else wants it, she would be willing to take the pro tem situation again. So if everyone's okay with that, we'll have a motion to appoint Beth.
I'd like to nominate Beth, if is that the procedure, or just?
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate Beth
I'll
as
second
president
it.
pro tem.
Okay, and we need a vote.
Butler,
Yes.
I should have said myself.
Lipscomb,
Yes.
Oprich,
Oh, abstain.
Smith,
Yes.
Thrash,
Yes.
Vincenzo.
Yes.
Okay, you're back in the hot seat. Congratulations.
I was going to say, does that mean congratulations? Thank you.
Congratulations.
So sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
My condolences.
Okay, first report this evening will be the mayor's report.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. I see JC got the memo to wear red tonight, too. We are into February, and I want to acknowledge that with the beginning of February, we're observing a very important month. February has been designated by the American Heart Association as Heart Disease Awareness Month, and they ask that we all pay close attention to our cardiac health, get checkups this month, make sure your blood pressure's good, and in women especially, heart disease can be a silent killer because women manifest heart attack symptoms very differently from men. So please take this opportunity to make sure you're in good heart health, start some healthy eating habits, and begin exercising so that when spring does break, we'll all be able to enjoy the nice weather. And speaking of spring, when the weather does break, and it's not in the too distant future, the water infrastructure project will begin. And as Jeremy will tell you, I'm sure it's not too soon because he and the crew were out on Saturday working on another water break down by the high school. Our infrastructure is a mess. It's grossly outdated and in a lot of disrepair, and it could not have been put off again. And it was interesting because last week I saw a special on Fox about the crisis in our country in every state with the infrastructure concerning water. Profiled were several towns in Texas who are now trucking water in by water buffalo because the infrastructure being from the 20s, and that's about the same age as our pipes. Excuse me. Practically every state in the union is facing a water crisis because of decades of neglect for our infrastructure. This project could not have been postponed any further. I'm especially pleased that our service director, Jeremy Greenwood, was able to write a grant which acquired $5 million toward replacement of these pipes, especially after being told that because of our median income, no grants would ever be awarded to St. Clairsville. As we have proven, that was patently false. And I also saw something in the Wall Street Journal. On January 23rd, it was announced that Aqua sold its company to Xylem in an all-stock deal valued at $7.5 billion. And that is a subsidy of Aqua. It now creates a water monopoly that will be felt globally. What that means to St. Clairsville, had we sold, any deal with Aqua would have made us, it would have been nullified by this new company, and the 2-year rate freeze they would have offered would have been expired by now. We would have been at the mercy of a worldwide monopoly for our most precious resource, which is our water. And remember, a corporation's fiduciary responsibilities are first and foremost to their shareholders. No government grants are awarded to private corporations. No profit would come on the backs of rate hikes and ancillary charges. I just thought it would be a nice reminder of where we might have been had we sold our water. And I'm really proud of our administration and our council for resisting that action. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Service Director Jeremy Greenwood.
Good evening, Council. Council items before us tonight is the first reading of the budget for the 2023 year. It's item 2023-7. It's got emergency language in it, but it's meant to be multiple readings so that we can get it issued up before the end of March. So if anyone has any questions or concerns on any of that, please reach out to Annette and we'll go from there. Since the last council meeting, I've had 15 different meetings, completed projects while we're at it. We went ahead and we purchased the 2023 GMC Sierra truck. That's going to go in the wastewater department. That'll replace the one that the brakes are failing on it. Mentioned this in the utility committee. We have been awarded a Ohio EPA water equipment grant for $50,000 for a generator at the water plant. That's the good news. The bad news is the generator costs about $85,000 and is going to take us 24 months to get. But hey, we didn't have to pay the $50,000, so we're ahead. The contracts were finally executed for the distribution system. They're going to be starting to work on that, starting to order materials and supplies. We also got the Ohio Public Works Clean Ohio funding for the 7.8 acres at the southern end of the bikeway. I did talk to the owner today, and they're still in on the deal. That grant will be for, we have to pay, hang on a second, $13,822, and the grant will pay $41,465. So pretty good deal for 7.8 acres. Mentioned the budget already. That's been completed and submitted to you guys. I'm sure there'll be some revisions back and forth. We're working on water nodes and meter installations. We also advertised for our wastewater superintendent. We have 2 candidates. Interviews are coming up this week. And then we also advertised for an assistant electrical superintendent. We have 1 candidate. That interviews this week also. TAP grant was submitted for the train depot. And then I do believe, Tom, we got the ODOT, the shale grant submitted too, right? So that's submitted too for the streets. I-70 water line, the berm was blocked. We uncovered the existing culvert. Looks like actually both of our lines in there were broken. So we have the 12-inch and the 10-inch line were both broken. The 10-inch is there. We also had a valve leaking through. Got some pictures of when they first exposed it and then what it is actually got today. We were able to match up the extension culvert to the existing concrete culvert. So that's step 1. Step 2, now we're going to backfill and then we'll switch to the north side and start all over again and hopefully get all that out and get it cleaned up. Upcoming projects, we're still working on the water nodes, the I-70. Route 40 water line extension, working with the engineer. That's the one where we're coming down from Reservoir Road down to Trinity, the proposed Trinity site. Since that time, I mentioned it last council meeting, there's a developer that is looking to develop the 17.5 acres on the west side of the city. So we're working with the engineer to see if we actually ought to take the 10-inch line and extend it past Trinity now to get it up and into that area also. Still working with the county for the water agreement. Had a meeting with them last week. They are asking for an extension until the end of May, and then they want 60 days after that to get the system up and running. So that's into July. We have sent a letter to the EPA asking or requesting an extension to get until the end of October. That email and letter went to the EPA today, and then like 3 hours after that, there was a call or another email from the county asking the EPA to call them because of another possible delay. So I've prepped our guys to we're gonna be making water most of the year. So we'll just deal with it and go with what we have to do. Building projects we're still working on. There's stuff in there. That's the train depot, junior rec, the police locker room, K9, updating the administrative policies and procedures. In there is a list that we have to develop a committee with council. So there's a committee, I believe Jim had it. So those have been sent out to there. If you're on that, please look at that policy and let me know. And if Christy was on there, she's already had some great suggestions and comments. Still looking at updating our inflow and infiltration plan. And then this is a contract year, so we'll have AFSCME contract negotiations probably sometime, I'd say probably 2 or 3 months. Department-wise, the electric department, same old, pole replacement, service work, disconnect, street lights, meter reading, substation maintenance, truck maintenance, and we're doing tree trimming as we can. Water, wastewater, the water nodes, the water line work, working on updating the policies. Part of that was getting the new superintendent in, so once that gets in, we're gonna try and get him up to speed, or her, and go from there. The I-70 project, the distribution project, we're hauling sludge out of the lagoon at the water plant, fixing hydrants and curb boxes and valves as we need to. As I mentioned before, we had one water line break. That was this Saturday. Knock on wood, hopefully that stays low. Smoke testing was completed. The water nodes, we're working on them. Street department is patching potholes. We're estimating still that we've only used about 100 tons of salt so far. We had ordered 700 tons through the program last year. We are on the hook for 90%. So not that I'm really wanting to pray for snow, but a nice little snowstorm would help out with that. We're ditching, doing some street repairs, and also today we started replacing some faded road signs. Rec center, most of that I'll let Christy get into with some of the other stuff, but the one thing that we are doing is we're still continuing to update that. We're going to replace the flooring in the front end of the building to match the new flooring in the other areas. Police, not too much going on there, but I do want to thank the officers for attempting to at least make entry on that fire on Saturday. They're not equipped to do that, but I know they still tried. And from the pictures I saw, the fire was rolling pretty good when they rolled onto scene. So that was still something that was pretty brave for them to try. And then good of the city, nobody that I know of is out sick anymore. We're just keeping our fingers crossed with that and rolling through it. And nobody was nominated so far for Employee of the Month, so we'll see if somebody gets nominated between now and the next meeting. And that is everything.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any questions for the service director? Bonnie?
The generator, you said it was a 24-month lead time on that.
Probably.
Are
Yeah.
we good for backup with what we have right now?
Yes, we had it serviced, but it is 40 years old. So that was one of the reasons why we submitted for the grant going through it. We've got need of generators in other spots, but that grant was only for water. So That was the only thing that was eligible, but we could need it too, so that'll just free up some of the money that we have to potentially get a generator somewhere else or something like that.
Okay, and then as far as Belmont County Water, you're saying that we'll probably be making water the rest of this year.
Mhm.
Did we have money for chemicals and everything budgeted
Yes.
this year, or is that
Yes,
gonna? Okay.
I budgeted it and went through, we did a 20% increase based off the chemicals. There's been some issues, obviously, with the trains and some of the stuff with chlorine getting around, but there was also a chemical fire plant.
East Palestine, yeah.
No, that's a train derailment, that's totally separate. This was the one that supplies the sodium permanganate, I don't know, I'm not a chemist, so, but it was one of the chemicals that we use, yes. Yeah. So we've so far been lucky, but, you know, we're still, you know, kind of looking around, searching, seeing what's available.
So there will have to be no extra money appropriated for that?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No. You're welcome.
JC, any questions?
Did we get like where we're gonna start on the water line project when he does break?
We have not had a pre-bid meeting with that yet to go through, but I had a discussion with the engineer actually this afternoon discussing some of it, because if you look at where the water line is in some of the areas, what's gonna be replaced, this whole section is down by the school, and I made it known that that can't happen during school. So that'll probably be a summer addition right through there and going through it, but we have not had a chance to sit down and look at schedule yet with the contractor. But all the contracts have been executed, and they've been given the go-ahead to start ordering materials.
And I know it's really early, but paving, are we gonna do any, or are we waiting?
I've got some money that I put in the budget for paving, and then we also went after that shale money for that one section, that one road. That one we'll see about. The other paving, it's gonna be kind of the same thing. Once the water lines are done though, I mean, that's part of the project, is those roads will be paved too, so. Be patient, please.
I didn't know if we had what plans we had, or?
Yes, I mean, because most of the areas where we have, it's the same problem we had last year. Most of the areas of the city need to have water lines put in them. So I think it's an incredible waste of money if we pave a street and then come in and tear it up, even if it's a year later to put a water line in. Now, will that happen sometimes? Yes. But some of the other stuff that we have in there, we're gonna get a crawler camera for the sewer department, but we're also gonna use it for the street department. We're gonna go through, I want every one of our cameras, or every one of our culverts and sewer lines cameraed so that we can see what we've got going on. That will also help out with the I&I, because we know when we smoked, we've got a couple catch basins that we're smoking that allow stormwater in. So we can get the cameras in, see what's going on there, and then be able to make a remediation however best fit.
Beth, did you have a question?
And I mean, just to the paving, that's why we paved only those two
Yes.
streets last year.
Yes.
Because we knew
Yes.
they didn't need new water lines.
Yes.
So.
The one street that was done in June, that water line should be good for another 20, 30 years. And that section of South Marietta that we did is the project that we did before that. We put the culvert in where we're crossing the water lines coming through, and then the other water lines will come down in the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So we made sure to coordinate that with the engineer and everybody beforehand, before we went through and did it.
And then I just wonder if you would update the rest of the council on the gas aggregation. And we did the utility.
From my understanding, everything has been submitted. PUCO has accepted our, what was it? It's not orders and findings. I got too much stuff going on my mind. What was the plan?
Suggestion.
No, the gas aggregation plan. What was it? What they were submitting, what they wanted.
Oh, the paperwork.
Yeah.
Oh.
What'd they call that?
Paperwork.
I know that. You're not funny.
I can't remember it either.
Yeah. Anyways, well, it's been submitted to PUCO, which is the Utility
agreement.
Commission, and it's supposed to be all okay. We're just waiting on them to tell us, hey, go ahead and sign. From the weather we're having, I'm sure the prices are probably still gonna drop more, but that was what council gave me and the mayor authorization to do. So once they let us know that they think it's gonna bottom out, and we'll sign, and then we'll send out an email to council and let you guys know.
they're waiting on the paperwork from Columbia Gas on our usage.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're waiting on.
So they're waiting on the Columbia Gas usage then?
Yes, but the Columbia Gas was dragging, not giving them the information, so they had to go to the lawyer and.
Oh, okay. There. JC knows more than I do, so it works out well.
Any other questions for the service director? Donnie?
Just, any update at all on Trinity?
No, last time we talked to them, Tom and I talked to them, they were saying they were doing some value engineering. I kind of think they're waiting to see what we do with this water line. Obviously, the water line is, $325,000 or more. So that's a big hit out of our budget to go through. We've reached out to our community government groups, all of them that we could, and say, help. I mean, this is a major water line and it's going to create a lot of jobs. So that's what they're kind of looking at to see. I actually need to touch base with them again to see if there's any updates, but.
And you don't think they'll break any kind of ground prior to?
I think they're going to. I think it's just they're just making sure they got everything crossed and dotted, but going through. It's one of those things to where it's like, okay, will this help them out with the value engineering? Yes, because they won't have to put in a fire pump, which means that their backup generator doesn't have to be big enough to run the fire pump, and then they've got square footage in their building that they could use for other things instead of that. So I think it's kind of a symbiotic little thing, but we're working towards it.
Okay, any other questions for the finance or service director?
Just one more.
Okay.
I know we had, how many new hydrants came in, and how many of those do we have installed?
We had 8 come in. I think there's only 2 been installed because our superintendent left.
Okay. All right.
So part of the issue, and then finding everything else. That's what we were kind of talking about with utility is manpower. It's what it comes down to.
JC?
One last question. So the water line break that you had on Saturday, say you didn't get that fixed, well, that would have affected the water, or could you just turn it back on again and just to the hydrant that they were using?
Oh, the hydrant, the hydrant that they used for the fire. Is that what you're asking about?
Could it affect that if you had the water shut off?
No, because where we had it shut off, it was only going from basically the flagpole to the other side of Sugar. So it was fed from other areas, but it could have affected the flow of it. So yes and no.
I mean, you could have still turned it back on, right, and let it just run.
Yeah. But
I'm just curious if something like that ever happens.
But the way it was broke, though, if we would have probably turned it back on too fast for something like that, if it would have been for a fire, it probably would have blown the line completely, because it was cracked pretty bad.
Any other questions?
Donnie, one more?
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
Okay, move on to Police Chief Matt Arbenz. Chief, you have a report?
Good evening, everybody. The monthly report for January, it's an extremely busy month. We had 457 calls for service, 15 crashes, 44 arrests, 2 warrants served, 2 domestics, and 139 traffic stops. Beginning of the year, training is always kicking off in several different areas. We had 1 officer already complete a hidden compartments and deceptive behavior training. 2 are scheduled for Ohio case law for police. 1 scheduled for criminal patrol and drug interdiction. We have a department-wide training this Wednesday on the kinetic breaching tool that we co-purchased with the schools. And the 2023 state mandated 24 hours of continual professional training has been released, and guys are already on the way fulfilling those requirements. That's all.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone have any questions for the chief? Thank you.
I'd just like to commend the department. Last week, they had a chase that ended in them catching all 4 suspects that jumped out of a car, and then they went back, and they were able to confiscate and to recover drugs that one of the guys threw out of the car. I think one of the policemen went back the next day to the jail to talk to one of the suspects. Is that correct? I mean, they really went above and beyond, and they made a really, really good haul that day.
Yeah, when one of the suspects fled, he hit a pretty good quantity of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and heroin on a private residence porch in his belongings outside. And Officer Wine went out to the jail the next day, interviewed the guy and told him, you're already in enough trouble. If some kid happens to find that, you're going to be facing a lot more time, so you should tell us where it's at. And he did confess where it was, and he recovered his items.
Thank you very much. Keep us safe.
Good job, Matt. Good job to the guys, too. Any other questions or anything for the chief? Okay, Finance Director is not here this evening, so we'll move on to Planning and Zoning. Mr. Murphy.
Thanks, Jim. As Jeremy mentioned, we did submit that grant for the local roads, oil and shale grant program through ODOT. We won't find out until the spring whether or not we're successful with that grant application, but they do have that. And again, that's for North Sugar Street. I just wanted to inform council too, that we have a proposed zone change. ICR Property Management LLC, they're requesting that the 17.56 acre parcel on the west side of the city near exit 215 be rezoned from office and institution to C1 commercial. They would like to construct a Honda Power Sports dealership at that location and then parcel off the remaining property for commercial or residential development. That public hearing is scheduled for Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. here in this building, in this room. Anyone can attend. If you do have questions, feel free to ask me. If you want to call me at some point in time, you can do that as well. And over the course of, it seemed like it was definitely over a month, as part of us applying for any federal grants or grants that rely on federal money, we have to be part of what's called the System for Award Management, or SAM. And if anyone has, I think Jeremy's been involved in it in the past, the fire department, they've kind of changed the way we renew the membership. And it was a month-long process trying to get them the information they needed, spending hours on the phone with them, trying to make sure they had what we needed. They were very helpful, some more so than others. They were all very nice. But the good news is we were able to get renewed. Now we're renewed till, I think it's February 2024. Hopefully next year, the process isn't so difficult. But it's good there, police, anyone within the city can apply for federal grants. Some agencies I know that were part of SAM, they made it so difficult to try and renew that they might not even try and renew. Even though they get federal grants, they said, you know what, we're going to throw up our hands, which is unfortunate. But the good news for the city is we're all set for another year. And but any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom? Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Okay, we'll move on to the council committees. Mr. Vincenzo, Finance, do you have anything this evening?
Yeah, everybody received the packet for the recap of the permanent appropriation budget. I know there's a lot going on there, and Annette's not here tonight. I know there'll be a lot of questions, so I take it's best to talk to Annette. Mike, you want to talk a little bit on these appropriations?
Yeah. I think people that were here last year kind of understand it. For those who, this is their first go-round, I would encourage you to ask Annette, or Jeremy knows a little bit about it also, probably a lot. He's involved in it heavily. If there's something that you see that you would like to change, you better get a hold of Annette soon, because we have to vote on it, and everybody has to be comfortable with it. So I went through it, checked all the math, everything looks good. I looked over the different appropriations, and have a couple minor questions, but I'll just talk to who has the questions for. It's very minor. But, yeah, I would just go ahead and ask Jeremy and Annette if you have any questions by next meeting.
You would like to have them by next meeting, Jeremy, is that the?
If possible, because then we can make changes and then continue on with the legislation.
Okay.
Now, is it due, when is it due to the auditor?
March, end of March.
End of March. So
Okay.
theoretically, we'd have both meetings in March to be able to do it, but that's why there's emergency language in it, so that we don't have to wait 30 days.
Okay.
But do it multiple readings. That's why we tried to get it to you guys as soon as we could.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That is all that I have on that. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Donnie? Okay, we'll move on to the utilities. Ms. Butler?
Well, Jeremy went over in depth a lot of what we went over in the meeting. The node replacements, the county extension, the I-70 project, the gas aggregation. So really the only thing, we went over the billing report, and also we were talking about setting up just want to remind everybody that you can set up an ACH so that your bill can be on an automatic payment every month. And there is no fee for that like there is online. If you go online and pay, you just set it up with check or checking account or savings account, right? It can't be done with a credit card or any other type of card, but that's a huge help, and that's really, everything else has been discussed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Tara? Okay, we'll move on to police. Mike?
Nothing to report. We have our next meeting. I was just looking at the date. I don't know if it's going to be the 20th. There's no holiday, right? So
No, there is.
There's a holiday?
Meeting's 21st.
Okay. So Chief Matt Arbenz is back, so we'll meet then. So there's nothing to report on police right now.
Okay, streets north side, Mike.
Yeah, just one thing. I think Jeremy's aware of it. There's a piece of property across from the laundromat. There's a pipe draining into a piece of property there. I don't know where the pipe came from or who put it in.
Contact them. There's a spring under the road. We're in contact. We're just
Okay.
playing phone tag with the property owner now.
And I looked at it, at first I thought it'd be a shame if somebody wandered in there and fell in there and drowned, but I don't think it's high enough. I think once it gets to a certain height, it
Yeah.
drains out onto the road. But,
There's a whole nother, there's a whole back and forth with it. We're just playing phone tag. So,
okay, other than that, that's all I have.
Okay,
I have.
good question.
For Mike,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if anyone has contacted you about the road going down to the ball fields.
No.
So, and I don't know what we can do down there, but when they did Edinburgh down there, the trucks really tore up the road going on down to the ball fields, like really bad. We're coming up on baseball season. They're a mess. Can
part
we?
of the road is not even ours.
It's not?
It's township road.
Which part of the road?
Going down to
The hill,
This
just basically from Edinburgh.
From where?
Edinburgh on down to where the road comes down and hits the flat spot.
Yeah.
It's all township.
the very steep part there. Is that the part that's tore up?
But
Yep.
no.
Well, I know
On down.
the whole road all the way from the flat spot up needs
Yeah, I'm
attention.
talking about like on down where you, the water, you know, where you go around the turn
Yes,
and you're turning up toward the ball fields?
Yes.
That's not ours?
that is ours.
Okay,
Yes.
it's very bad.
Okay.
So,
I knew that.
yeah,
Yeah.
on down, like, you know, where you can start on the trail down there, like right about that area, and you continue around. It's really, really torn, it's terrible. Is there a way we can tar and chip? Can we?
I'll see what we can do.
I know paving is probably, I mean, if we were to pave, is that something that would be torn up because of anything, or are we free to do what we need to do on that road?
What do you mean torn out?
Like for
you know, the
water.
water.
The water
the-
line, no,
yeah,
that,
yeah.
we should be completely.
Is there anything that would, you
Shouldn't be
know,
any problems with that.
it wouldn't be
There shouldn't
wasting?
be, because the water that we actually have from there comes from, Provident up there, and it's county water at the park.
Okay.
So that was one of the things that we had looked at. There was a piece of property for sale.
Mhm.
There was actually some preliminary engineering to cut in a new road that comes down through there to eliminate that nasty hillside and that nasty tree where all of it is, because it's not wide enough. Unfortunately, the property was sold before we could get in there and get onto it.
Okay.
So, but I will
Yeah.
talk to Darren and see.
I
can go
think
down and
it's,
see.
I mean, even if we filled, I guess, the potholes, but I think it's a little bit more than that if we're able to do that. Just there's some repair needs done, pretty big time down
I'll
there.
talk to him and see.
Okay.
You can go down and look at it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Darren.
you.
Anything else goes to that? Okay, south side, Mr. Thresh,
No report.
safety, Mr. Thresh.
Yes, there is a report. I wasn't able to attend, but Don was, so.
Yeah, I did, I was able to attend the safety meeting for the city employees. I thought it was a very good meeting. It was the first one I was at, and I've always wanted to go to one of those. Kyle Weingart, is that his name? Wingate, okay. He did a real good job. He does more than just say, wear your hard helmets, wear your safety shoes, wear your vest. I mean, he gets personal with each employee. Each employee was engaged in conversation. They spoke freely. It was just a very good meeting. And like I said, it's more than just a safety topic meeting. He really gets to the employees. It's a good meeting.
That might be why Don gets commended every year for safety, having a good safety record.
One of the reasons. It's money
Congratulations on that.
well spent by the city to work with them.
I mean, and you, I meant.
Okay, anything else on south, or on safety rather?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, move on to building and grounds. That,
Yes, so we had a Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting on January 20th up here, and it was the first time that this committee had met this year. So we were just kind of getting a lay of the land, and we talked about some property acquisitions, and Jeremy had already talked about that we did get a grant that we'll be able to purchase area right off the bike trail. Like, if you're going on Route 9 and you turn into, kind of go to the water plant, there's a little stretch of land there. So that's great that we're gonna be able to get that. There's 3 other properties that we talked about whether or not the city would be able to purchase. We also just kind of talked about future projects, and then at our next meeting, we'll talk about really the buildings. It was a 2-hour meeting, and just trying to get acclimated to what buildings and grounds, all the different projects that are going on in that area. So our next meeting will be on February 17th at 2 o'clock, also in the meeting at jail to the council. Whatever this room is, right over there is the next meeting, 17th at 2 o'clock.
okay, thank you, Beth. Anyone have any questions for Beth? Okay, move on to planning commission, Ms. Lipscomb.
I really don't have anything to add to what Tom said. Just looking forward to the meeting on March 13th at 6 p.m.
Okay, sounds good. Fire district, Linda's not here, move on to recreation.
I know Jeremy mentioned the floors being replaced. Registration is still ongoing for all the sports. Ogilvy Art Institute contacted Eric. They're going to be teaming up with the rec center. He was approached about using the meeting room as a permanent studio for the Ogilvy Art Institute to offer more classes year-round. So they're going to do that. I don't have details on what sort of classes, but they will start in the middle of March, and they will have 3 to 8 week sessions for a total of 24 weeks worth of classes, and he will have more details, I'm sure, by the next meeting, which is next week, February 16th at 4:30 at the rec center. The summer concert series and festivals are being finalized. I have a tentative list of those, and I did want to mention, because I have had a couple community people, who's paying for all this? Who's paying for the bands? People, of course, naturally might assume that the city pays for this. The city does not pay for any of those things. Corporate sponsors pay for the bands. It's not costing the city money. It's actually generating money for the rec department. And I do have a list here of the dates. If anyone wants them, I'd be happy to send a copy. I just thought it was important to note that. And he's done a great job, and various members of the rec board have also done a great job in securing corporate sponsors. And I actually got one last week that Eric's gonna send information. They were interested in sponsoring a concert. So he's working hard and doing a great job down there. And it's gonna be a great summer down by the amphitheater. It's gonna be lots of fun.
Can I just add, the first concert of the season, the kickoff to summer, is the Jimmy Buffett tribute band. I'm so
It
excited
is,
about
yeah.
that. That'll be a lot of fun, so.
Yeah, and it's gonna be Thursday, May 25th is the
Yeah.
first night. It's gonna be pretty big. Sure.
I just want to see that.
Yeah.
Sounds good, very good. Anyone have any questions for Christie? Okay, thanks, Christie. Again, Linda's not here, nothing on park. So that takes us to ordinances and resolutions.
And we have just one piece of legislation tonight. That is ordinance 2023-07. That's the ordinance to make permanent appropriations for the normal expenses and other expenditures of the city of St. Clairsville, state of Ohio, for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency. I know it's been stated several times, I'd like to reemphasize that council take time to go through the budget. If you have any questions, ask Annette, ask at the next meeting, so that changes can be made, because when you do your third reading, that will be your budget for the year,
So this is the first reading.
This is the first.
So if we would have questions and then there would be a change, next council meeting would actually then be first, if there's significant.
No, we can make changes to the budget and make corrections in there. It's when you do your third reading, that budget becomes your final budget.
So if we, I'm just gonna use an example, just to make sure we're on the same page. I'm on page 2 here, and I see, I'm making something up here.
Mayor's
So-
staff.
I don't wanna use that one.
Yeah, if we
Travel and
want to,
transportation.
zero out the mayor's staff and move the money somewhere else, that's when you do it.
Okay, but so let's just keep with the mayor's staff, and let's just say it's the travel transportation, so not number 12. And I talked to Jeremy and Annette, and I'm like, yeah, that really should be, I really think that should be 3,000.
Right.
So between now and the third reading, that can go to 3 to 4 to 2 to 1.
Correct.
And we're good.
Yes.
Okay. And then we would just, if there were changes, then at the next meeting, you would say, hey, on that
just
budget
note.
we passed out on
Yes.
page whatever. You know what would be helpful though is actually to have page numbers.
That's what I told her.
I was looking for a million too.
But that's okay, don't make other copies.
Right.
We will put page numbers on there, but
Right.
it might be helpful for us to do that. So
Yeah.
as we go through, then we could say a page 15,
Line items or
line,
whatever.
whatever. What's that?
Yeah.
City, like you did. You want to do everyone's? You want everybody to start
Yeah.
turning in?
I told Annette, or asked Annette if she could put something in there.
I can do that.
Okay,
Have Jacob do your first reading.
Jacob, you want to read the ordinance 2023-07?
Ordinance number 2023-07, an ordinance to make permanent appropriations for the normal expenses and other expenditures of the city of St. Clairsville, state of Ohio, for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, that is the first reading. Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda. The next meeting would normally be on the 20th, the third Monday of the month, but that is a holiday. So the next council meeting will be on Tuesday, the 21st, at 7 o'clock here in the city building. If nobody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Meeting's adjourned.